From KPRC2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
I start this morning with a terrible story we watched unfold here on KPRC2, the abandonment of children left alone in an apartment for months, allegedly by their mother and her boyfriend, but it gets much worse. In that apartment with 15, 10, and 7-year-olds was their 8-year-old brother whose body had decomposed after being left in that apartment, left with his siblings who watched him being beaten to death and who then lived with his decomposing body. The details from the 7-year-old's description and Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, heartbreaking.
We saw soiled carpet, no furniture at all. No bedding, no blankets, nothing like that we could see.
He stated his younger brother's eyes were black and that he stopped blinking during the assault, that they pulled back the covers and saw that he was really dead and saw roaches everywhere on him.
How do those children recover from something like that? What about the thousands of other children in our region who unfortunately witnessed traumatic incidents in their lives? Let's talk about that this morning and how we all might be able to help the most vulnerable in our society recover to the extent that that's possible. Joining me, Comay Freeman, a certified trauma-focused behavioral therapist with Harris County Resource Services and Children and Adults, formerly known as Harris County Protective Services, and Carrie McCracken, the executive director for the Children's Assessment Center. Thank you both for joining me this morning to talk about this clearly awful situation these children have had to endure. Ms. Freeman, talk about what are some of the most important steps that helps these children recover from these traumatic kinds of situations.
Absolutely. I think, at the Harris County Resources for Children and Adults, specifically at the Integrated Health Clinic where I work, there's a multitude of services that's available to these kids. So when they come in, they have the opportunity to have medical services, immunizations if needed. They have the opportunity to have dental services and psychiatric and mental health services if needed. They also have the ability to have psychological testing and assessments done. There's also the opportunity to have a parenting partner come alongside the caregiver to provide additional supports in parenting classes as well.
Ms. McCracken, what role does the Children's Assessment Center play in these kinds of cases?
Well, the Children's Assessment Center, our primary focus is the treatment and healing of sexually abused children. But in addition to that, our scope is a little broader. Section 264 of the Texas Family Code actually sets out the responsibilities of an advocacy center and specifically provides that a multidisciplinary team response is required in a case involving a child fatality in which there are children in the household. So we provide services to children in those circumstances, and those services include the forensic interview, again, that multidisciplinary team approach where our 57 partner agencies that include law enforcement, the DA's office, so forth, get together for the response and collaborate to come up with the best response plan. We have a medical clinic as well, where children that are victims of trauma that come to our center are checked not only for signs of trauma, but for overall well-being. And then we also provide therapy and psychological services to not only child victims, to their siblings as well, and to their non-offending caregivers. Yeah. And all of our services are free of charge.
Ms. Freeman, let me talk to you for a second, because you're on the front lines of having conversations and interactions with young people, people of all ages, I imagine. But you talked about the kind of services that may be available to these young people, including psychiatric. It seems to me that the kind of scenario that I described earlier and similar circumstances, the psychiatric and mental piece would seem to be really foremost at the front. I've been told that young people, because they are young, they can be resilient and they have a better ability to recover. Is that true? And if that is true, that is at least a glimmer of hope for some of the children and what they may have to endure.
Sure, absolutely. There definitely is hope. Children are very resilient, and despite horrendous circumstances and traumatic events that they've been through, they have the ability to adapt and the ability to survive despite those circumstances. So I am really hopeful that with the right mental health intervention, and services that these kids are able to survive and to start the process of healing from the trauma. Absolutely.
Is there a typical length of time it takes to help a child get through the most immediate impact from the trauma that they've experienced?
I think trauma affects children differently. There's no length of time that's put on it. It's different for every child. It takes however long it takes, and we're there in the trenches with them, providing whatever supports that they need. It may take up to a year. It may take more than that. It may take less than that. It depends on how the trauma has affected that kid, and the treatment is individualized to that child. So definitely, however long it takes, that's how long it takes. We're in the trenches with them, providing the support that they need.
Ms. McCracken, I saw you nodding your head when she said it, however long it takes. I know that you talk about the partnership with the various agencies that you're on. We talked before we did this interview, and you talked about making sure that when the kids come to your facility, that it is a safe and welcoming place. Talk about how important it is for them to see where they're coming and know that it is a safe and welcoming environment for them.
Well, just to give you some background, the whole Child Advocacy Center model is based on not re-traumatizing a child by having them have to go to a hospital, like an emergency room that's not necessarily set up to be child-friendly, a police station, maybe a CPS office. So back before the Advocacy Center was created, and there's over 800 in the United States and over 71 in Texas. But before the model was created, a child that made an outcry of abuse most likely was going to go to different locations and tell their story several times and be re-traumatized. So the idea is come to one location that is child-friendly with professionals that are trained specifically to deal with children so that that child is not further traumatized by the process.
Mm-hmm. Both of you have opportunities for people to get involved, to help, to volunteer or what have you. Ms. Freeman, give me an update on what the public might be able to do to help you in what your organization is doing.
Absolutely. I think as a community, as a collective, it takes all of us. Child abuse is everyone's responsibility, and it's really important if you see something to say something. There's the African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child, and that's so vital in this discussion that we're having today. As a community, we need to do better in knowing the signs of child abuse and knowing when a child needs help and taking the necessary steps to make sure that we're reporting it and getting them the help. At the Harris County Resource for Children and Adults, people can volunteer their time. They can donate money, donate resources. There's a program called the Hay Center that's part of the Harris County Resource for Children and Adults, and the Hay Center provides support to kids that are in foster care and those that have aged out, so 18 and above. There's also the Bear Room, which provides basic necessities to kids that are in CPS custody. The holidays are coming. They provide toys. They provide school supplies. So definitely, if you have the time, you can volunteer there. You can donate your money and resources. Absolutely. And
I'll make sure that that information is available here. Ms. McCracken, you also have volunteer opportunities.
We do. So we also have a holiday toy drive and a holiday toy party where we distribute the gifts to the children. In the summer, we have a back to school, generally a party. Things have adjusted a little bit because of COVID, but we have backpack stuffing. And throughout the year, volunteers can volunteer. As Comey said, they can always give money, of course. We have community service projects where organizations will come help clean or plant in a flower bed or something like that. So if we have groups that want to come, money is always appreciated. But one thing I wanted to add too, and Comey kind of hit on this, as a community, it's our job to watch out for the children. So one of our big initiatives here is prevention training. So not only do we provide training for our staff and our partners so that they can do the best at their jobs, we have free trainings all year for the community. And because of COVID, we've offered a lot of them. Now we offer a lot of them virtually, and they're all free. So learn the signs and symptoms of child abuse. We have trainings on human trafficking and how to look for to prevent your children from being lured into human trafficking, internet safety, things like that. So I encourage the public just to educate themselves as well.
Well, I'm going to make sure that I have all of this information on our website so people can go to the Newsmakers page on click2houston.com, get the information they need to get involved with both of your organizations. We have to do something as a community to make a difference so that our children don't go through this trauma. Sometimes this can't be avoided, but we can do something to help, and I know we can. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. I appreciate you being here. Good luck as you continue to do the good things you do on behalf of the young people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimbrell.
Just ahead.